Testing. Alright, 8729, release of certain lands leasers per preferential right. Secretary in the terms prescribed that him may release lands of the Naval Petroleum Reserve that were recovered with the leave of May by July 1st, 1936, and by terminating the law of the expiration of the initial 20-year periods. And if any such land is to be released, Secretary shall give the former leaser preferential rights for the new lease. Alright, 8730, disposition of products. Administration of the Naval Petroleum Reserve within the Chapter Secretary should review the store sale of the petroleum produced with the Naval Petroleum Reserve of the lands covered by the joint unit or other cooperative plans. B1 subject to paragraph 2 with the not saying the name of the provisions of all each sale of the United States share of the petroleum shall be made by the Secretary of the Public Sale of the highest qualified board bidder at such time, such amounts after such advertising. Secretary can sell the property without regard to the federal, state, or local regulation controlling sale of the allocation of petroleum products. Each sale of the United States share of the petroleum shall be paid shall be for periods no more than 1 year, except for the sale of the natural gas may be made for a period more than 1 year. 2. Secretary may not sell any part of the United States share of the petroleum produced by the Naval Petroleum Reserve of the number 2 and 3 of the price less than the current sale price of the estimate of the Secretary of the comparable to petroleum in the same area. 3. For the purpose of paragraph 2 of the term petroleum does not include the natural gas liquid. C. With no event of the Secretary permit award any of the contract result of any person obtained with the control of directly and indirectly over the more than 20% of the estimated annual United States share of petroleum product of the Naval Petroleum Reserve of the number 1. D. Each proposal for the sale under the title shall be provided with the terms of every sale of the United States share of the petroleum from the Naval Petroleum Reserve shall be instructed to give the full and equal opportunity for acquisition of petroleum with all interested persons, including the major independent oil producers and refiners alike. When the Secretary of the Constellation, Secretary of the Interior determines the public interest, will be served by the sale of the petroleum with small refiners not having their own adequate source of the supply of the petroleum. Secretary is authorized direct to set aside a portion of the United States share of petroleum produced for such refineries under the vision of the selection process, and even such refineries accept that more number of the production of the sold small refineries may be resold in kind. Production must be sold at a cost no later than the prevailing local market price comparable to petroleum. 3. Set aside a portion that may not exceed 25% estimated annual United States share of the total of the production of the all producing Naval Petroleum Reserve. And 4. Notwithstanding the provision subsection B, Secretary may in his discretion deem it be in public interest to prorate such petroleum among such refineries for sale without competition no less than that of prevailing local market price with comparable petroleum. Any petroleum produced for the Naval Petroleum Reserve except for the type of the petroleum which is either the exchange with a similar quantity with the conveyance with the increased efficiency with the transport and then with a person or with the government and with the adjacent foreign sale with the temporary export with the conveyance with the increased efficiency with the transportation cross parts of the adjacent foreign state re-enters the United States shall be subject to all the limitation license requirements of the Export Administration Act of 1979. In addition, before any petroleum subject of the section may be exported under limitation license requirement penalty enforcement provision Export Administration Act of 1979, President must make the published and express finding that so the exports will not diminish the total quality of the quantity of petroleum available to the United States that exports of the national interests are in accord with the Export Administration Act of 1979. During the period of production, any and extension thereof will be authorized by Section 8722C of the title of the Constellation approval of the requirements of Section 8731A3 of the title are waived. 2.1. Prior to the promulgation of any of the rule regulation plans of development amendments thereto with the entering the making of the contracts operating agreements relating with the development, the production, and sale of the petroleum in or from the reserve of the Secretary shall consult with the give the due consideration to view the Attorney General of the United States with respect to matters which may affect the competition. No contract operating agreement that may be made issued executed under the chapter until at least 15 days after the Secretary notified the Attorney General proposed contract operating agreement. Such notification should contain with such information the Attorney General may require in order to provide Secretary as to whether such contracting operating agreement may create with a maintained situation consistent with the antitrust laws in which within 15-day period the Attorney General invited the Secretary that the contract operating agreement may create and maintain situation inconsistent with the antitrust law, then the Secretary may not make issue execute the contract operating agreement. 8. Nothing in this chapter shall deem to confer any of the person immunity from civil or criminal liability or to create a defense to actions under the antitrust law. In this section, the term antitrust law means the Sherman Act, the Claimant Act, the Federal Trade Commission, Section 73, 74 of the Wilson Tariff Act, and Section 2, 3, and 4 of the Act of June 1936, formerly known as the Robinson-Patman Act. Shall any pipeline which is accept the value of the transport any petroleum produced for the Naval Petroleum Reserve, the number 1 and number 3 shall accept the value of the transport with a discrimination reasonable rate for any such petroleum with the common carrier insofar with the petroleum such the reserve that's concerned. Every contractor into the Secretary for the sale of any of the petroleum owned for the United States which is produced and sub of the reserve shall contain the provision implementation requirement of the preceding sentence if the contractor owned with the control and interest in any pipeline, any of the company operating in any of the pipeline, if the operator and any of the pipeline carried the petroleum product produced for the Naval Petroleum Reserve, Secretary may promulgate rules regulation for the purpose of carrying out the provision of the section. He or she, the Secretary of the Interior, where the appropriate where the authority extends to him to declare forfeit any contract or operating agreement that right of way, permit, and easement held by any of the person violating any such rule or regulation. This section shall not apply to any of the natural gas common carrier pipeline operated by any person subject to the regulation under the Natural Gas Act, Title 15 U.S. Code 717 sequence. Any public utility subject to regulation by state or municipal regulatory agency have the jurisdiction to regulate with the rates and charges of the sale of the natural gas to consumers with the state or municipality. K1. With respect to all and any part of the United States share of the petroleum produced from the Naval Petroleum Reserve, the President may direct the Secretary A. the petroleum place the petroleum in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve authorized in subsection 151 through 166 Energy Policy Conservation Act, or B. exchanged directly and indirectly with the petroleum other petroleum, be placed in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve under such terms and conditions such methods of the Secretary determines to be appropriate without regard to otherwise applicable federal procurement statutes and regulations. 2. Requirements under Section 159 Energy Policy Conservation Act do not apply to actions taken under the subsection. L1. Notwithstanding on the provision of the chapter but subject paragraph 2, during any of the period with the production of petroleum is authorized by the Naval Petroleum Reserve of the number 1, 2, or 3, Secretary at the request of the Secretary of Defense may provide any of the portion of the United States share of the petroleum so produced the Department of Defense or its chief of the exchange sale in order to meet petroleum production requirements of the Department of Defense. Petroleum may provide with the Department of Defense under paragraph 1 either directly or by such exchange with the Secretary deems appropriate to appropriate reimbursement reasonable reflecting on the fair market value of such provide with the Secretary of Defense for the petroleum provided under the subsection. 3. An exchange made pursuant to the subsection may be made without regard otherwise applicable to federal procurement statutes and regulations. 4. Paragraph 1 does not apply to any of the petroleum set aside for the small refineries on subsection D or placed in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve under subsection K. Alright, 8731, requirements of cancellation and approval.